Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We have been hearing loud and clear from our members that they are weary of everyone talking about potential for AI, and what they want to hear from us is what are the actual use cases for AI, Gen AI, what are companies doing with it today, what are out-of-box capabilities from technology providers, and what is the business impact of these capabilities for early adopters. So I am thrilled to be joined today by a real live Chief Technology Officer. So Ken, welcome to the webinar.
Thank you very much, John. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm assuming that a lot of your role these days is being consumed by the topic of AI and Gen AI. Is that a fair statement?
I think it's extremely fair. Certainly in the last 6 to 9 months, it's absolutely exploded. There's absolutely no avoiding it. And so, yeah, really looking forward to the discussion here.
Yeah, so, recently TSIA completed a survey on AI for professional services. Bo DiMuccio, our Vice President of Research for PS, just did his own webinar. You can find that on our website if you want to get into all of those results. Kantata also just completed a survey around AI and PS. So we're going to be both sharing some of our data today and talking through that. And if you want to look at where we should be targeting AI in professional services, I think you need to start with, what are your biggest business challenges? And I know you all know this, but TSIA has a huge library of over 700 business challenges. And every time we talk to one of our members, we tag that conversation to the one or more applicable business challenges. And by doing that, we have this constantly updated dynamic list of what are the top issues of our members. And I pulled the most recent list. This is, as of Q2, the top 10 business challenges for professional services. And I think just looking at this, there are some really obvious wins for leveraging AI, starting with number one, improving pricing. I mean, if you're doing some really good analysis on historical pricing and margins, that's really going to give you some insight into what you should be pricing future projects for to make sure that you're making a nice profit on each one of them. Effective resource management. And in all the years I have been here, it is always in the top 1, 2, or 3 business challenges. People, obviously very expensive, the biggest expense for professional services. And leveraging AI to do your project scheduling, resourcing is an obvious win, because the AI is going to be so much better than you are at spreadsheets and balancing the right talent on the right project for the right price, right utilization rate, et cetera. Another one, utilization rate is another critical metric that our members care about. And doing some really good historical analysis is going to help you understand the curves to that, what's impacting it positively and negative, avoiding some of those problems you may have had in the past to make sure that you've got a very balanced utilization rate moving forward. Project quality and consistency. Again, this is something that we talk about on the support side and the customer success side, about mining historical patterns to understand friction points. And I think that if you are doing that and you're looking at positive projects, negative projects, the AI is going to identify a lot of what's the contributors to positive and negative, and maybe things that you haven't really realized. So, another obvious thing that I think we should be starting with. And finally, moving to a subscription model and PS is the biggest topic today, and companies are trying to figure out what should those offers be. And if you have not been creating value-added services, this may be a new skill set for you. But again, I think that an AI engine looking at customer history is going to be able to tell you, what was unique about the customers that consumed, adopted the fastest, renewed better, bought more from you. What sort of services did they leverage? Is it business process planning? Is it some embedded PS folks? Is it additional help building dashboards? I don't know. But if you can start doing some of that instead of just trying to think on your own and base all of this on historical patterns, I think you're going to really shortcut your path to success. So Ken, I know you also spend a lot of time understanding customers' business challenges. What are you hearing from Kantata customers and prospects?
Yeah, 100%, John. So, the good news is we're seeing a lot of common themes, a lot of commonality with some of the things that you're seeing at TSIA, very common within our customer base, as you mentioned in the front. We recently commissioned our own survey through Census Wide, and are seeing a lot of the same things. In particular, by a 2-to-1 margin, quality and consistency that was on your list. Coming through very loud and clear. Gen AI in particular promises to deliver, increased quality, consistency, reliability overall of delivering services. Innovation and thought leadership. I'll call that one out in particular. I mean, that's a lot of, it's what brings us here today, quite honestly. Talking about new innovation. This webinar in particular is thought leadership, right? And that's what clients are demanding from professional services firms as well. They're looking for some education and looking for some guidance. And so that's all coming through, very, very loud and clear, from our customer base and from the participants in our survey. And so, with those, some of the demand, these are challenges professional services organizations face today around client acquisition, pricing and fee structure, efficiency, demand volatility, talent management. You can see, there's no one that stands out here. There's a lot of, there's a lot of concerns there. And, how does AI play a role here? Those demands are exacerbating challenges, and balancing that efficiency and growth, can be addressed with AI. You can choose any ones you want here. Largely, we see organizations turning to data analytics and insights, at a 19% clip to address some of these. And, that's going to be a very common theme that we'll see throughout the discussion here today. I think it's something, as a CTO, in my own world, investing more and more in, I'd say something that's evolved in my career, especially over the last 5 years, the investment in data engineering and being able to digest and understand the data and apply that data is more important than it ever has. And AI will continue to drive that even further. So not just getting the data, but being able to analyze that data and put it to good use. It's a great use case for AI. It will save lots and lots of time. It will, reduce time to value in terms of turning that data into valuable insights that you can then apply back to your business. And then lastly, sort of knowledge management expertise. That was the other thing that sort of came through in our survey. Is just, getting that knowledge in the hands of the right people and applying that. So, yeah.
I'm thrilled to hear that knowledge management is finally bubbling up on the list of things PS needs to care about. I've done some webinars with Kantata on this in the past, and clearly there's so much expertise that we're learning on every project, and very few companies have a process to capture that and save it for the next person, so they don't have to go through the same pain learning things. So I'm thrilled to hear that. Obviously, Gen AI is going to make it a lot easier to capture that knowledge and make it, searchable. So hopefully, we're going to see these great company-wide implementations of intelligent search technology start to index PSA project plans, and so I'm thrilled to hear that they're focused on that. So this was the first data point I wanted to share from our recent survey on the AI impact on professional services. And when we ask which of the following describes really how mature is your AI practice for PS, 48% of companies say that they're still investigating applications and potential impacts. So, compared to like the sales organization, maybe the marketing organization, definitely customer success, I feel like PS may not be quite as far ahead. And, part of that is because there are limited data science resources available in every company. And I think that PS services in general are not usually at the top of the list to get those limited resources. But does this surprise you at all, Ken, to see that, they're really just investigating, taking some initial steps, and very few companies have yet to really get any value from AI?
It's surprising and it's not surprising all at once, John. I think the reality is, especially given the current macroeconomy, we're seeing our customers and PS organizations having to make tough decisions. They certainly want to invest in AI, but they're having a hard time making that step. But it's interesting, and some more of the data I'll share that shows that AI is really top of mind, and something that professional services organizations want to act on. But as you show here, 41% don't have budget, 48% are in the early stages. Those are opposite positions, right? Want to do a whole lot about it, but not really able to get going. Maybe that obviously today is a good step, and hopefully we can help our attendees along that journey.
Well, I completely agree. I mean, 41% haven't identified a budget source. So it is a bad time to be going to your executives and saying, give me $1 million. I want to go invest in some cool AI. The one thing that I want to say, my first tip of the day for this webinar, is more and more vendors, including Kantata, have been embedding more AI capabilities into the product. So, before you think you've got to get this huge budget to go buy all new technology, you really need to start talking to all of your incumbent vendors and do an inventory of what is already there, what is on their roadmap, because these capabilities are available for you. You bought the license, you own the software, and I find that companies aren't necessarily taking advantage of the embedded AI capabilities and the tools they already have. So, please, before you go start shopping for best of breed AI, make sure that you're maximizing everything that is available from your existing vendors, because I imagine there's quite a few features there or on the roadmap coming out this year and next year that you could take advantage of that you may not be aware of. So Ken, talk to us about the potential here, disruptive forces. What did your survey find?
Yeah, thanks, John. And just to touch on the point you just made, being one of those vendors that are providing some capabilities and certainly have plans to do it. I'm also, the flip side of my role, of course, I have the forward-looking part of my role, 12, 18 months out as CTO. Also run the day-to-day engineering team, and an important part of that is looking to AI on how I run that part of the business. And there's things out there on code generation, and I'm looking to my vendors as well to provide me some assistance without raising my budget or increasing it too much. So I think it's a great point. As far as some of this, we said as we just saw in the data, a lot of PS organizations are kind of looking for that next step. And our survey said that AI is the most disruptive force, yet a lot of people aren't really prepared to get down that journey. I would say here, technological advancements obviously leading here. Primary driver of acceleration and change is what we try to do as a business with our customers, is provide enhancements, provide an end-to-end SaaS solution. That is going to continue to be there, and that's a drumbeat of professional services organizations. I think a logical conclusion of some of the data we're seeing is that PS firms really need our help and need our guidance on how they go down this journey and how they get started, because some of them are still in very early stages. Technological advancements also, I would say, this is a lot of what's been happening over the last 5 or 10 years, and the term digital transformation, I think is applicable in this case. which I would say is mainstream at this point. AI is clearly in the early stages. We're just at the tip of the iceberg. I mean, you just see, even the big tech firms of, Meta, Apple, Amazon, all of them in their recent earnings statements are all talking about AI. I think Tim Cook said in his earnings statement last week that, hey, we're putting AI in every product we have. Amazon, same thing from Andy Jassy, saying every team at Amazon is working on AI. So it's there. And it's a matter of, how do we take advantage of that? How do we, get that in the hands of our customers, our vendors, et cetera. Data analytics, we already sort of touched on that one. It's a common theme that we're going to see. And then innovation and experimentation is exactly where we're at. I mean, this is the early, the tip of the spear, the early stages. And, that's coming through loud and clear in the data that we see, is that need and desire to innovate and experiment, so that you're not seen as a laggard, you're not lagging behind, because at the end of the day, the PS organizations, their clients, their end customers are looking to them for guidance. And so, that's where we'd like to sort of educate more.
Well, I've got two more data points, and I feel like I'm being a little harsh here, but it does seem that we may be focusing a little too much on the tactical side. And I know we have to start someplace. I know we've got limited budget. Great question from Steve saying, what would the primary focus for a budget be? And I think looking at this slide, the answer is going to be different for different companies, Steve, but we see that 67% of our members are saying they're primarily focused on data analysis and insights. And for that, I mean, you've all got Tableau or a tool like that. You've had it for a decade. So that is not about technology. It's probably about getting some additional analyst resources who can help interpret the data, weed through the data, start understanding the correlations, to get some understanding from it. This is, not typically a talent that operationally minded PS managers have. So, it could be that your budget initially is going to be on some data scientists and some additional analysts. Again, hopefully better leveraging the tools that you have. And then on the roadmap, there probably are some additional technologies that you will want to fund and bring in. But, again, I think if we're looking, where are they starting their initial AI and development and planning? Everybody's analyzing data, and that's great. Digitizing processes is good. But I'm a little concerned that only 29% have so far targeted resource management or staffing recommendations, when we know that is the #2 business challenge of technology PS firms. So, I'm just hoping that we can get through this analysis phase and start focusing on some actual real world benefits. And the second finding here is, what are the use cases related to actually delivering services that we're focusing on? And the #1 and 2 topics, natural language processing or translation. I know that that's something AI can do well, but it's not something I've ever heard a PS exec tell me they were struggling with as a challenge. So, digitizing experience, again, I think we're targeting some low-hanging fruit. You got to start someplace. But I just wonder how much guidance that PS is really getting. And I'd like to ask you, Ken, and we talked a little bit about this last week. So I see some members who are told, go figure out how to transform, go figure out how you can use AI. And it seems a little unfair if you're talking to like a project management office, they've been doing things the same way for a decade. They may not be the best people to identify how to transform. So as a CTO, what do you see as the way forward? Are you partnering with each department within Kantata to help kind of nudge them and give them some guidance? Should there be a transformation team that's doing this, or should we leave them to their own devices? What's the best practice here?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I would say I don't know that there's an easy singular answer to that just yet. I think with everything still evolving so rapidly, and more and more innovation coming through literally on a daily basis. It's hard to sort of give a true sort of playbook on how to tackle that. I would say, speaking about Kantata, we are looking at it holistically. Our around sales and marketing automation. I talked about some of the things right on the screen here on automated code creation. Our own professional services teams, as we're doing integrations, there's things that we're looking at to help there. There's tools out there. I mean, many people here in the audience maybe have already worked with the chatbot, ChatGPT, or another one that, I mean, they're incredibly powerful for generating lots of things around proposals and project plans, and at a minimum it can just give you a framework like that. Like it's so helpful if you're not already leveraging some of that for some of your maybe more task-oriented activities versus knowledge-oriented activities. So I think internally, like we're educating our team internally, our customers. We're hitting all sorts of different parts of the business and educating on what we're doing and how we can help them. At the end of the day, our customers and our clients' success or their success is our success. And so the more we can arm them with, I think the better off they are. But again, I think it's so early with some of this, and the technology is evolving so quickly. It's hard to really put a distinct playbook around it, but it will settle there eventually. If that's 6 months, 12 months from now, hard to tell. I think we'll know after it happens, and then we can kind of settle into, hey, here's a sort of skeleton framework, or here's a structure on how you can apply AI within your own organization.
Yeah, I'll just make a comment. I think this is one of those things that you've got to be comfortable with some bottoms up thinking and transformation, because I think some of the younger workers, they had a lot of AI and analytics training in college, which was not common, a decade or more ago. And they know what their friends are doing at other companies in similar jobs. So there's probably some great suggestions coming from the frontline workers within your company, and definitely consultants. So, the great ideas on how to leverage AI do not have to come from executives. And I think if they only come from executives, you may not be moving quite as quickly as you could. So back to you for some more of your survey results.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, that sort of data analytics insights theme. So top 5 ways technology can help PS organizations drive efficiency. I talked about that sort of data engineering. You touched on data science, John. They are similar but not the same. Certainly that is a piece that continues to evolve and will only become even more important, as we said. Knowledge management we also touched on. So I'll jump to enhanced decision-making support. This is an area that I think AI can really help sort of bring, clear points to the surface. Help us make we'll still make the decisions. I think that's not gonna sort of be set to the AI. I mean, maybe AGI years and years from now. That will be something that maybe even enhance decisions themselves. AI can help there. The technology is not there, but the technology is there to really bring all of the various points. And what I find actually is it's very good. Generative AI is very good at pulling out and summarizing documents, articles, and really bring that data to the surface. So I think that's a clear one there. Personalized experiences. Certainly what we see with our customers, and I think some of the data that you showed earlier, John, in terms of, or actually, sorry, I'm gonna slightly preview this, but the length of time it takes for organizations to turn around proposals and such. I won't steal your thunder there, but I think that's where AI can really help in those personalized client experiences, really, custom tailoring proposals and such. And then automation. I did see a question from the audience pop up there about, is automation getting confused with AI? In some ways, I would say yes. In some ways, I'd say there is a clear role for AI to play in the role of automation and being able to, obviously repeat certain tasks, but provide them. And back to maybe the first point that I made here was around quality and consistency. I think AI can help fine tune automation so that your quality and consistency is even better than it was. So, and with that, John, I'll tee up some of the data I just previewed.
Yeah, I'm doing some mentoring with a brilliant guy. He's graduating this in December with a master's in data science, and we keep arguing about data science versus analytics versus AI, and I keep telling him it's a Venn diagram. Stop pigeonholing yourself as one and you're not the other, because there's a lot of overlap there. So anybody looking for an amazing data science person, send me an email. I got a great candidate for you. So let's talk about some of the obvious opportunities. And we've been alluding to these, but I was just trying to come up with 3 places if I was running PS today where I would want to start. And looking at some of the metrics from the benchmark, an average of 31 business days, not days, business days. This is a lot of days to create a proposal. And with Gen AI capabilities, this should be down to hours, not days. And if AI is looking at the next metric, the hit rate, what are only 54% of proposals are accepted, and the rest are sent back and revised and revised and revised or rejected. And I have to think that if AI is looking at what were the proposals that were accepted, what made them positive, why did people accept them, and creating, using this Gen AI to write these proposals. And that's going to help you factor in all of the parameters around profitability and discounting and reining in salespeople giving away services for free. So, I think we can dramatically improve these numbers and ultimately be delivering more successful projects if we're leveraging some AI. And I've mentioned this a couple of times, sorry to keep coming back to it, but an average of 18.2 business days to staff a project. So, the customer has gone through this long, painful purchase process. They finally got budget approved. They've signed the deal. They've paid you. And now they're sitting and waiting for a consultant to start their project. And an average of 18, maybe 18 is not that bad, but that's the average. Think about how high some of these are. It can take months sometimes to staff a project. So this is another area that, not only should we be better leveraging the AI capabilities in the PSA platforms to automate that scheduling, but I find that very few companies are really doing resource forecasting. Looking down the pipeline to what projects are you going to be delivering in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and making sure that you've got the skills available on the bench the day those contracts close. And as we're introducing subscription services and value-added services, all the technical skills that you've been recruiting for the last few years may need to take a back seat if suddenly you're selling all these business process projects to go in and re-architect your customers' processes to get better use of the technology. So, I think that these are critical metrics. And if you've been through benchmarking with us, which metrics you are way behind the curve on. And, I think that should be kind of your starting point for what you should be thinking about for AI. And again, some of those capabilities are probably available in your PSA platform today, and you're just not using them. So do you agree? Is this some logical places to start, Ken?
Yeah, I would say so. And I got to tell you, John, when we were reviewing some of this data initially, these numbers literally jump off the page at me, especially the one on the left and the one on the right, 6 weeks, roughly to deliver a proposal, 3 weeks to staff a project. Like, I'm surprised that the actual hit ratio is as high as it is, given those two numbers.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty amazing. That hit rate. I mean, there's so much room for opportunity and improvement, and I think AI, as you've pointed out here, the opportunities, no question, can improve this, and really, that hit ratio should really move up quickly with the, time is money, as they say, right? So and as I'm not a salesperson, but as they say in sales, time kills all deals. Like, the longer you have to wait for a proposal, the lower that hit ratio is going to go down. You shorten that time, you be able to, get more at bats and do them quicker and staff projects more reliably. It's going to be an incredible boon to professional services organizations.
When we were first talking about doing this webinar around this topic, I had a great conversation with Jen Dodos, who's the head of your marketing, VP of marketing comms. And I think that there is such an opportunity here. You just mentioned personalization, and implementations are not one size fits all. And I know that only 29% of companies are requiring the sales organization to capture why the customer is buying the technology. What is their expected outcome? What are the metrics they're trying to move? What's the ROI model they're expecting? And I just feel that if we were capturing that up front, that AI could create a custom implementation plan that specifically speaks to this customer's goal, their expected outcomes, their expected time to value. And instead of pushing them into implementation type A, B, or C, every single one would be completely tailored to the needs of that organization. So, I feel like we're having the conversations about value. We're probably not capturing it in a usable way. So just keep thinking. I mean, ultimately, once they go live, that very same tool could be generating a customized onboarding plan for every single customer within your customer company. So great potential here. And, I'm hoping people get better about sharing data across silos, better leveraging the entire customer life cycle and doing analysis on that, and get out of your own department, because there are other people that can help you. There's data in other departments that could be helping you. And if you're only looking at this as the PS part of the customer journey, ultimately, it's going to take you a lot longer, I think, to get value from AI.
Yeah, no question. And as we sort of transition, this is our last slide before we go into open Q&A here. I'll touch on a couple of things. One related to that data, and I think it's a good point here. The real buzz and the hype right now is really around Gen AI. There's a slightly forgotten part of AI around machine learning, and this is something that I've been, and this comes back to data engineering a little bit. And one of the things I look at with Kantata and our customer base and all the customers we're serving, I mean, there's a great opportunity to analyze that data and be able to identify, hey, what does a good project look like? What does a bad project look like? What is, projects that are on time, that are on budget, and really start to analyze that data and understand the trends. And that takes time and analysis. But I think there's a great opportunity there too, just to touch on another part of AI. And then, really, as far as propelling professional services forward, some of these things we touched on around content generation, predictive analysis, automated solution design. When I look at our plans, there are some things we have in our product today, like, on that last slide around resource management, we have features in there. They were developed years ago that weren't necessarily called AI. But there's optimization capabilities that would now be categorized as AI. So to your point earlier, John, about going back to your vendors and understanding the features, functionalities they currently have, what they're planning, how you can adopt those, and then looking forward, how we look at it at Kantata, we look at some short, medium, and long term. Some features take a lot longer. They're much bigger. They're larger. They're more audacious. But there's some low-hanging fruit that we can really help by taking advantage of new technology that's really evolved in the last, as we were saying, last 6 or 9 months. Some of this technology. So, but there's also considerations. Maybe we'll touch on a couple. We can have a discussion about that too if the questions don't come up here. But yeah, I think that's really what will kind of tee things up. And with that, Vanessa, maybe we'll pass it back to you for some of the questions we're seeing.
Perfect. Okay, well, we already have quite a few questions in queue, but just as a reminder, if you do have a question for Ken or John, please enter it in the Ask a Question box in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, and we're going to get through as many questions as time allows. I will jump right in, and this question comes from Steve, and we had quite a few questions on the same topic, but Steve's question specifically was, how much do you feel AI will overtake human positions in management?
I'm happy to take the first shot at this, John, unless you want to lead.
Be my guest.
Okay. So the management aspect, I'll touch on the management aspect. Let me step back and give maybe a more 30,000-foot view of this, because this is incredibly. I mean, there's an actors strike that's ongoing right now. If we step away from professional services for a moment, right, which is, one of the really key issues is around AI, and it's obviously very different from what we're talking about, but this is everywhere. Is AI going to replace? Is it going to replace jobs? Is it going to eliminate people's roles and positions? My personal feeling is there could be select cases where that happens. I would say a large majority of the case, it's just going to make people more efficient, more productive. It's giving people tools to tackle maybe some of the more remedial things that people do, stuff that's a bit monotonous, that takes time, but doesn't take a lot of brain power, to be honest. Like it will really help accelerate and allow people to apply their time. Again, time is a fixed asset. I look at my engineering team. Time is a fixed asset to my engineering team, and how do I maximize the time that my developers and engineers are spending? And I'm looking for ways in which that we can help apply our talent to to more valuable tasks. And so that's my general view on it. About management, no, I don't think it's going to replace management specifically either. I think, back to a point maybe I made earlier around maybe AGI, that's years and years away, and who knows if it ever comes to be. For people's knowledge, AGI is really, being able to develop the ability to make decisions and have human decision-making capability. Mm-hmm. I think that's a long way off, and no, I don't think it's going to replace management. But John, I'm curious, your perspective.
I think in general, B2B tech companies don't have a lot of jobs that are so mind-numbing that they can be completely replaced by AI. That's just, maybe in some other industries that can be. I do think that we need to keep an eye on upskilling employees. If you do have employees who are doing a lot of, like accounting tasks that could be easily automated, let's make sure we're upskilling them now. So by the time the AI comes in, they've got other roles they can move into. But I chuckled when I saw Steve's question about management, because I do think that AI could easily replace a lot of middle management. And that's what we've been seeing in services. The layoffs have not been impacting consultants. It's been in that middle management layer. And, if you've got management whose sole job is watching a dashboard and yelling at employees when the numbers are out of whack, AI is going to be a lot better than a human at doing that, because it can look at those dashboards and a million different parameters and automatically alert employees if a project is about to go, out of budget or miss a critical date or whatever. So, I do think some of those middle management roles that are mostly just overseeing and supervising and yelling at employees when necessary, some of that can go away with AI. And I hadn't thought about that before. So, Steve, thanks for asking that question.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair point, John. Appreciate that insight.
Let's jump over to Rob's question, and they say, how important is data integrity, and is it a foundation to a successful AI strategy?
Oh, Mr. CTO, be my guest, but
okay,
yeah.
Okay. Happy to take this. So this is so I'll step back for a second, and my general position, if you look over history, innovation and technology almost always wins in the long term. It does take time for technology to mature. This is why we have a technology adoption curve, right? And you have the innovators and early adopters, and then you get to the majority. AI isn't, is going to take the same path, and those who are anti-AI right now have some reasons to be. And yes, I mean, at the end of the day, these LLMs are as good as the data that is being pumped into them. And so, as the saying goes, bad data in, bad data out. And so you have to be really, really careful if you're leveraging AI, that the data that you're putting into your large language models, your LLMs, is vetted. It's reliable data. And any of your vendors that are going to leverage AI, I mean, they should absolutely be leveraging private data models, not only for the purposes of data integrity, but data security, et cetera. So I think it's a very fair question. I think there are definitely concerns, and those there's best practices around how you do that in order to ensure that data integrity is top notch.
Yeah, it's so important. I mean, as you said, garbage in, garbage out. And, I'll give you a quick example. I talked to a company who was pretty early in building a private LLM for their support organization. And what they found is that they had so much bad content and 50 different procedures to solve the same problem that the Gen AI was spitting out garbage because it had 50 different processes to pick from, and it didn't know which one was right. So, you really, I mean, this has been hampering transformation for a decade. The fact that the data is bad, data is inaccessible. You've got duplicate data. You've got out-of-date data. You've got to start doing some cleanup on this stuff because it's really going to hamper AI's capability to do anything quickly if it has to spend a year with machine learning to figure out what's good, what's bad, what's real, what's not real. So, it's never too early to start cleaning up your data, purging the old stuff, et cetera. It will ultimately help you move a lot faster.
I'd now like to take this time to thank our presenters, John and Ken, for delivering an outstanding session. And thank you to everyone for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us for today's live webinar, Opportunities for Professional Services to Harness the Power of AI, brought to you by Technology and Services Industry Association and sponsored by Kantata. We look forward to seeing you at our next TSIA webinar. Take care, everyone.